Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 348th episode of the Alfa Insurance Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today we're going to be joined by Winder-Barrow head coach Robert Paxia. He's entering year 2, and then we will close out the show talking a lot about some of the big baseball results and some other spring sports updates. But let's go ahead. We'll get started right now with Coach Paxia. How's it going, Coach?
It's going good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. So, looks like you have a really exciting opportunity for your team this year. It's going to be year 2 for you. So, what excites you most? Just being able to have the full off season and really hit the ground running.
Yeah. So last year I got here in early March. March was my first day, and that provided some, it's different challenges late, and you have to go through spring practice, and then you're kind of getting acclimated to the kids as you're coaching and getting those guys prepared. There's not a ton of relationship building time, so that coupled with the fact that there wasn't many returning starters on the team, and not a lot of kids that had played coming back from the year previous, whereas this year we returned 10 guys on offense. We returned another 6 on defense. So, we're really excited about the fact that, we've got a really good group of guys who've played a lot of football, for our staff and know and understand our expectations and have had a great off season. So there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, and this offseason couldn't be more different. It's probably a whirlwind for you. You said your first day was in March. I know that was a speedy process coming from Florida. So how much of a whirlwind was that process? How did you have Winder on your radar, and how did that play out?
Yeah, I mean, it's when it happened. I mean, it was really fast. Something that wasn't really on my radar. Wasn't looking to change. I was at home. At the school that I went to, and Winder came open, and we had a conversation. It was something that we decided to look into, and ultimately it ended up being the best deal for me and our family. With our football goals, and football being it's a respected career, being a football coach up here, whereas in Florida it's not necessarily looked at in that regard. Looked at more of a necessary evil in some form or facet. Just kind of the way people view that. That being said, it's significantly different here, and love the transition here to Winder. Everybody here is fantastic. We have a great group of people. Administratively, our kids are fantastic. They work really, really hard. They do what we're trying to ask them to do. Community support, and again, you can't ask for a better community than the Barrow County community, especially Winder. The city of Winder. It's the city of Statham, which kind of both feed us, is where most of our kids come from. Again, you can't say enough good things about them.
Yep, and that is really true. I mean, the state of Georgia really does have a high regard for their high school football coaches, and I would say it's much more than other states, but football coaches do have an odd rep. I know a lot of people think they're a little intense. They can be mean sometimes, but it is a very important role. So what about just the administration at Winder-Barrow, the community? has felt maybe different for you?
First, you're right. I mean, football coaches often get mistaken. Typically the average teacher is going to deal with 30 kids or so in their class. The football coaches, depending on where you are, is going to deal with that plus another 100 or so, depending on where you are, but anywhere between 100 and 130, 140 kids, in addition to what you would normally teach. And you're gonna deal with those kids for. We just did the math with our guys. We talked about at some point we will be together for over 210 of 365 days of the year. So 2/3 of the year, the football coach is going to spend time with their athletes. Whereas, if you're a block teacher, yeah, you're going to have them for 180 days. But you're only going to have them for 50 minutes a day. Whereas you're the football coach, you're going to have them for 210, days probably at the least. There's probably more days in there that got missed. But you're going to have them, you're talking about, you have them in weight training, you have them at football practice, you have them after school, after football practice is over when they're waiting for a ride or they're looking for a ride or they got something going on in their family. Like there's so many things that get misconstrued about what the actual role of the football coach is within the school, within the community. The different things here administratively, is they want football to continue to help set the tone. They understand that football can kick off the school year, can get everybody excited about the school year and starting the right way. And that's a big thing for football. You talk about school spirit and community spirit and, bringing people together. Football is the most popular sport in the United States, one of the most popular sports in the country or in the world, outside of soccer, which is, played, worldwide. And I think a lot of that has to do with the cost. But football, community-wise, there's nothing like when you're in a small town and you're able to shut down the city on Friday night, and you're able to put together a quality product that people can be proud of. That's playing with class, playing hard. It doesn't mean that you win every game, but it means that, when you play, your kids are playing as hard as they possibly can. When you're winning, they're winning with class. If you're losing, you're losing with class. Just make sure that, they're taking every opportunity to be better. And your job as the coach is to make them better young people first, and doing those things. So our admin team here knows that. Our community knows that. They're fantastic. They're supportive in a multitude of ways, whether that's showing up for events, whether that's through corporate sponsorships or just providing, speaking opportunities, business leaders within the community coming in and investing their time, within the program and having conversations about, culture and building a culture and leadership and what leadership looks like, in the real world, all of those different things. You have to find ways for your kids to get exposed to. And if you're not doing that, you're doing them, you're doing an injustice for them.
For sure. And then in order to have success, you got to come out and you got to shore up both lines of scrimmage. But then it looks like a core philosophy, I guess your first year at Winder-Barrow and previously in Florida, you want to get guys as many reps as possible during practice and stuff. You don't want guys sitting on the sideline waiting their turn. You want to get everyone involved. So how key was that last year, just with a young team, being able to just try to maximize the reps and get everyone ready?
So the biggest thing for me and kind of our philosophy with that in regards to practice is kids don't sign up they don't want to play football to be on the sideline. And whether that's on the sideline at practice or on the sideline in games, the biggest thing that I want is, I want our retention rate to be high. So the number of kids that come in as ninth graders, again, let's say that you have 50 if you're at a bigger place. If you have 50 for a nice round number, if you're ending with 10 kids, then your retention rate's not high. That means somewhere along the way, those kids just decided that they didn't want to play anymore for a variety of reasons. Well, the biggest reason that kids don't play is, they don't play. So the number one thing we did here is we have a ninth grade team now. We have a JV team. Then we have our varsity team. And the ninth grade team is new. That's the first time that's been here in the last handful of years. But again, it goes down to retention. Kids playing, at practice. For us, maximizing reps. So whether that's 2 offenses against 1 defense or 2 defenses against 1 offense, again, now you're involving more kids, and even in a way to get your second team more involved, you now can have 2 offenses and 2 defenses, and it can be, your first offense against maybe your best defense that, and they're getting the scout card before, and then so they know what that looks like, and getting reps and as many times as you can snap the ball on offense for us is a great thing, because that's a chance for an explosive. Explosives leads to touchdowns, and then the same thing on defense. If if you can get off of the field and you can stop explosives, then you're probably going to have a good chance of being successful. Again, trying to turn the ball over and make sure that that's a point of emphasis. You can do all of those things when you are keeping practice at a high tempo. You are using game-related drills that translate right to, or skill-related drills that translate right to the games. And there should be things that you're working on in practice that you see, whether it's a vice tackle, angle tackle, open field blocking and tackling is the hardest thing that you can do in the game of football. So how are you finding ways to work those skills for your athletes? Like, how are you finding ways to put those players into that situation where they can be in the open field and they can be comfortable and they can have the spatial awareness to know where their help is coming from and know where the sideline is, and just all those different pieces that go with that. So, having a young team last year was huge for us, where we had to come in and basically, oftentimes, as I like to say, we just push reset. It's not that anything that anybody did before us was wrong. We just do it. We're going to do it a different way. And sometimes those ways are translatable, and everybody has things that carry over from staff to staff and scheme to scheme. There's always some type of crossover, trying to figure out where that is and what that is and how you can translate that from what it was to what it is now. Just trying to teach those guys that. But for us, we're tempo, trying to snap the ball pretty quickly, especially in practice. Trying to maximize, our 2 hours and change of practice time.
For sure. And then you obviously played a lot of juniors last year, sophomores. MJ Dowdy had a huge year looking at the receiving core, a lot of different guys. But you mentioned the JV team and the freshman team. Are there any guys that maybe did have a senior or an experienced starter at that position that have been putting in the work that you're excited this spring are going to get that opportunity to try to earn that role?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that we're really, really excited about. Obviously, the return of Camden Hodge is a huge thing for us. And then that coupled with the fact that, we return Evan Lynn, so we should have a good, healthy quarterback competition. But both of those guys are very good athletes that will allow them to play some other positions. Then that'll give some depth at quarterback. Zay McCoy was our second leading rusher last year. He's had a fantastic offseason. Expect him to contribute on both sides of the ball for us. Some underrated guys or some guys that maybe, whose names you haven't heard. You're going to talk about Brandon Gomez, getting into the running back room as those guys start to play more than just running back for us, kind of sneaking in there and grabbing some of those carries and gobbling some of those opportunities up. You talk about Devontae Livingston, who ended up getting hurt for us. Started a couple of games, did a fantastic job in the couple of games that he did start. Devontae is going to be a junior. He's a super long, athletic kid that can run like the wind. We've got Chad Trueblood, who's an offensive lineman who had never played football until last spring. Who's had a fantastic year of just learning and growing and getting stronger. So in that crew, those guys have done a fantastic job. Again, the benefit of us being so young last year is that we kind of have a really good idea of what's coming back, and they've all played. I guess the non-benefit is that some of those younger guys that are in that freshman class are going to have to kind of wait their turn. Those rising freshmen, they're going to be sophomores, and we've got, like I said, we've got a couple of them that they're going to contribute. I mean, London Munoz, will slide outside and replace J.J. Carlisle, who is a fantastic senior for us on offense, our lone senior starter. On offense, or every play starter on offense is J.J. Carlisle. London will slide into that role. I mean, London's 6'3", 175 pounds. As a ninth grader right now, a kid that caught a couple of balls for us this year, working in the slot. We bring in a kid who's in middle school right now. His name's Giovanni Tuggle. I mean, he jumped high jump 6 foot as a seventh grader. So, he's doing some of those things. So he's got an extremely bright future, kid that we're really, really excited about. And just for us, this second year is now we're just trying to create competition. Now we're pushing those young guys to push the older guys who maybe got the chance to play last year.
Absolutely. And then are you changing anything this offseason now that you have kind of more time, more experience regarding maybe padded camps or any additional activities this summer?
Yeah, so last year we attended 2 padded camps. We did a 1-day and then we did a 2-day. The biggest difference for us is we're going to do a 2-day in June. Our plan is to attend the one at Peachtree Ridge. But then the other opportunity for us here is, we're going to go to FCA. I want to get our kids away. I want to get our kids, taking the time to do some staff bonding. So we're going to go to the University of West Georgia and participate in the FCA camp with our guys. And again, just trying to get them away from their normal environment. A lot of our kids have never left Winder or Statham, and just try to put them in a different situation where they can see some different things. They get to meet some new people. They get to see, with West Georgia making the transition to FCS, they get to see a Division I school while we're there. Just trying to do those things. On top of that, we'll go to Georgia for 7-on-7. We're going to go to Wofford for 7-on-7, participate in some of the lineman challenges that they're going to have. The biggest difference for us here this upcoming summer will be the local 7-on-7 stuff, whether we're going to Banks, trying to get with Stevens County, with Rockdale, some of those places that are local that are, that are pretty good or athletic or who may be in the same kind of situation that we're in, with the program growth and trying to get better and just wanting to compete and willing to do that.
And then in terms of your region this year, looks like the main difference, Jefferson's not in your region anymore. You guys add Alcovy, I think, but it's an 8-team region, so it's going to be a lot of region games. What's your overall impression of it?
We lose Jefferson, which is, it's a good and a bad thing because obviously Jefferson's, very, very good. And, in order for you to be a very good program, you have to be able to play with and compete with programs like that. But on the other hand, it provides us an opportunity to be competitive. Obviously, with Eastside not being in the region anymore either, those were the 2 big dogs last year. What I would say about our region is that it's extremely competitive, and that on any given night, any team in the region can beat any team in the region. Whereas like last year, Eastside, Jefferson were pretty much, I would say, not head and shoulders, but they were definitely better than the other programs in the region. Again, that was shown in the playoffs and in the other region contests for the last 2 years. Both of those guys and both of those staff do a tremendous job. So going back and looking at our region again, it should be a highly competitive region again, where you can look at and say, on any given night, any region team can beat any region team. You look at it, obviously there's going to be a favorite for the region, and but I'm sure there could be a shocker in any of those things, and the biggest thing for us is our goal is to compete and win a region title, and that's at the forefront of our checklist right now. So we're excited about the opportunity to compete and try to win the region.
Yep, and it looks like a very motivated group. They obviously played against top competition last year, a lot of underclassmen starters, but I'm looking at some of the guys that have been picking up steam. You got Mason Woods, mentioned him stepping up on the offensive line. Looks like a lot of these guys are like 4.0 students as well, just great kids, bought in. They have pride for the community, the jersey they're wearing. But what are these opportunities looking like for them at the next level? Just having great GPAs, and then what's your role in trying to get them those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge for us. The biggest thing that we're super proud of is when you look at our roster in our December grading period, so after the first semester. I mean, we only had four total Fs in the entire program, and of those 4 Fs, 3 of them were over a 65. So they were able to, right at that cusp of not doing it. We just had one kid that struggled. So if you look at 100 kids times 4 grades, you're talking about 400 grades. So you're talking about less than 10% of our grades, really about 1%, because you have four total grades, that of the failing category. So our guys do a tremendous job in the classroom. And again, that's a tribute to our faculty and staff here at Winder-Barrow and the support that they have, for us and for our athletic programs and for all the students here, and making sure that they are getting a quality education first, and that's their first and foremost job. So, just having that opportunity for our guys is big, and the fact that those guys have tremendous GPAs just only continues to open doors. You mentioned Mason. Mason currently has an FCS offer from the University of Rhode Island. Would not shock me to see Mason have more FCS opportunities again, even into some of the service academies and some of those Group of 5 schools. As Mason continues to get bigger and stronger, and Mason's one of our 3-year starters. He started here as a sophomore, started here last year as a junior. Really excited about seeing what his senior year looks like. Again, you mentioned MJ Dowdy, 3.8 GPA. Has done a tremendous job for us in the classroom and on the field as a 1,000-yard rusher. He's got an offer from University of Rhode Island. Again, as people continue to come in and pick up steam, he's a guy that's going to pass the eye test, and that's the biggest thing, is make sure that while they're doing it and working in the classroom, they're also investing in their bodies off the field and in the weight room, so that when these colleges come by and you get an opportunity to look at them, they can see, all right, this kid's very clearly worked hard. His body looks good, like it's prepared. He has muscles. His max is, he's not benching 135 pounds. Like he's a strong kid that's willing and able to play. And that's where we're trying to make the biggest growth right now, is just in the weight room and continuing to try to get stronger and doing those things. So I would, our role in the recruiting process is to try to make sure that our kids have every opportunity to be successful, and if they want to use the game of football to advance their education, that's what we try. Last year, again, we had 14 seniors last year. Had a handful of them that decided that they're going to go to trade school, or they're going to do this or that. They didn't want to go to college. And what I would say is that of our kids that wanted to try and play and play college football, most of them have opportunities to go and do that. Again, whether it's Tyrone Allen, who played defensive line, played some tight end for us. Whether it's him, he signed to go play for the NAIA national champions in Kaiser. AJ Johnson is going to LaGrange. Ryan McNally has some D2 offers that he's still trying to figure out and look through. Jaden Cooper had multiple Division II offers, and right now we're trying to see if he's going to be able to walk on at Kennesaw or at Mercer. And that's due to he's going to get a hope, and he's going to get has opportunity to maybe get an outside shot at Zell Miller and use some of those scholarships that are provided within the state of Georgia academically in order to make sure that they can progress and do those things. So, we've got a large group that's got some chances. Again, even forgetting, Tank, going and signing with Stetson for us. Tank Harris, giving us a Division I signee this past year. So we're just going to continue to try to do that. And it's back-to-back years that Winder's had a Division I signee. So we'll just kind of continue to try to put out, quality product, on the field and give our kids every opportunity they can off the field, and to further their secondary education.
Yep, and you mentioned the weight room. We've seen some footage of you guys getting after it on social media. So how has that been? What's impressed you with their buy-in so far? And then what do you expect just with the tempo and excitement this spring?
Yeah, you lift the. You've got to. There has to be translation between how you lift and play. What I would say for our kids in the weight room is that they've done a tremendous job, but they've done a tremendous job since I got here. And that's just a tribute to our community, to their parents, to them as young people. When I first got here, one of the things that was said to me when I, presented my summer calendar to some of the guys that were on the staff, and I told them that our goal is for our kids to have 80% of attendance. Is one of the goals. One of my personal summer goals is 100% of the kids over 80% attendance all summer long. When you look at a 6:55 start time, that really tests how much you want to play football. And we were pretty close to that goal this year. We had 80% of our kids making 80% attendance rate this past summer. So we're going to look at continuing to grow that piece, where our kids can show up. And some of that, again, that goes back to the relationships and the buy-in and the success that we can have, on the field. And our kids know and understand that, and they're ready for the challenge. The offseason has been fantastic for us. They've done a tremendous job in the weight room. Our max numbers are significantly higher than they were, previously, and I mean that's a tribute to our strength staff. Those guys have done a phenomenal job. And that even goes to our track and field staff, where our kids are running track. Their times are down. Every meet, it's like, kids, I got a PR, I got a PR, I got a PR, and that's without us changing the weight room. If we've got a track meet on that day, we're lifting whatever we've got to do, and our kids are going out there and competing hard and showing up and working and doing the things that they need to do. And, so again, they deserve all the credit, for that. And we're going to continue to encourage them to do those things.
Yep, it seems like it's been an exciting offseason so far, and I know you guys are geared up. But last question, Coach, who do you guys open with in the non-region schedule this year?
Yeah, so we are going to do a jamboree in our fall scrimmage. So jamboree is going to be us and two other schools, which I guess is new around here, which is very common in Florida, is jamborees. Just gives you an opportunity to see two different teams, so you can get two different looks and see kind of maybe a less formal, more of a scripted setting, than going out in an actual scrimmage. But it gives you an opportunity to see two different people, and that's obviously a good thing. And then, from there we open with East Jackson at home. And that's our youth and alumni night. So we're going to make that a big blowout here as we get into the season. Try to feature all of our youth programs, the middle school, the rec league. Try to recognize the alumni in the building. Again, try to make it just like a big community event to kick off our season, and kind of go through our schedule from there at that point.
Awesome. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. I'm excited to see you guys in 2024. I'm glad you guys have settled in. I know there's a lot of movement around, but it's going to be a great GHSA season, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for allowing us to be on and let me talk about Winder-Barrow. Truly a privilege to be here, a privilege to talk to you. So thank you so much. And anytime you guys want to talk about Winder-Barrow football, we're more than willing.
Awesome. Go Bulldoggs. All right. So there goes Coach Paxia. And, yeah, I was excited to get him on, too. He came from Florida last year, and we'll talk about it on the other side, but it's been an open secret that top high school coaches are coming from Florida to Georgia, and this year it seems like there's actually a real conversation going on, and I'll touch it on the other side, but there's actually legislation being passed or being proposed earlier this month in Florida to try to even the playing field in terms of coaching salary, because they're seeing it as a problem. But we'll talk about that on the other side. First, let's thank our sponsors real quick.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
your thing. We've got you covered.
All right, welcome back. So before we get into some of the broader picture, let's look at a clip of Winder-Barrow getting after it in the weight room, and this is the key window. As Coach Paxia mentioned, he came there in March last year. Now it's a full off season, and this is make or break time. They're getting after it. So let's check out the Bulldoggs real quick.
You know what's inside us, it's not what us, you see what I'm saying now. Clock for 5 is hand. This shot it be my ratchet, call a baddie out my fan mail. Back walk through the car, 100 round tryna the most corners, though we love to post all night, fully loaded. 30 in my magazine, let's it out by broke. Drag, racing in the we be on some moles, run, I'm not a fan. Out of my pocket, you get them wet, that's about 100. I leave a scratch, I bet the chopper shoot 100, y'all. 250s on this mag, all black, we gon' knock them all. On some low, 200 bottom, not sorry that I got attached. Memphis in and out of what it cost me, you can't pay. Shot him up, put penicillin, cut it, don't let me know. Shots fired all right by the building, I advise you not to play. 5 by 6 and 308, rip up they block, then you get paid. New 4-5 clock like jump out shade, that JOG on jump out game. We break it down and bag them up, ran up 100 in the day. 4 in the morning, me and Buddha, all my jewelry on the head. This shot a bitch, you let her my down around the face. With my foreign, roll that up, pick in the air, straight to the face. Backseat, I'm snoring off a Xanax, plus a pint of purple. That my little homie on the corner serving rocks. And banging the fans, they be trolling like we hiding, but we out toting them. Mercedes throwing, been they blocked and let our shots, they knew it.
All right, so there you have it. And that was 1 month ago. So they've been at that pace this entire offseason. I think they're going to be a really impressive team next season. They lose Jefferson from the region. That was obviously the region champ last year. They made it to the semis before falling to Creekside. They had Sammy Brown, Mr. Football Georgia, I think his junior year. I think Heck Lindsey might have won it this last year. But last year, Winder-Barrow started off the season very hot. They were 3-0. They fell to Peachtree Ridge, who was outstanding last year. And then they had a big win over Loganville to open the region. And then they ran into Jefferson, and then they ended up falling short, missing out on the playoffs. So it's going to be about finishing the season stronger. They're facing a lot of different opponents with their padded camps, their season opener. And now I feel it's a young team, 10 returning starters offensively. It's about building momentum, peaking at the right time, and I expect them to make that push back into the playoffs. It should be a special year too. So let's go back to the topic we were talking about, and that is Florida coaches going to Georgia and how it's become a real conversation. Now, last week I read the article. It says, why are so many Florida coaches leaving for jobs in Georgia? And Coach Paxia was actually mentioned in that article. So at his last destination before coming to Georgia to take the Winder-Barrow job, he was at Flagler Palm Coast in Florida. That's his alma mater. And then the coach that was there before him was Travis Rowland, who then went to Mainland, won the state title, and now he's at Camden County. So he's part of this exodus. And I mean, there's tons of articles. All you have to do is type in Florida coaches leaving for Georgia, and they all have come out in the last month. And that is because there is legislation being proposed. So the one headline we read last week was, why are so many leaving? This one says, Florida is suffering an exodus of high school football coaches. It says the Sunshine State has lost dozens of top coaches seeking greener pastures in other states. One of the interesting things Coach Paxia said was that he felt like high school football coaches are just respected more in the state of Georgia than in Florida. That's something that hasn't been mentioned, but I think it is pretty true. I mean, they play such a significant role in what he was saying, setting the tone for the school year, getting the community out, shutting down the entire town, driving small business. I mean, it's part of the fabric of the state of Georgia, where a football coach in Florida, I guess it's just maybe there's more distractions with the beaches and golf courses. So let's get into these articles, though. Beautiful, world-renowned beaches, ideal weather year-round, a perfect retirement destination. Florida sells itself on these luxuries, and they've attracted millions of new residents in recent years. That's true. It's already a big state. The population's growing. A lot of people are moving there, and it's usually the destination. You never hear people leaving Florida, but that is the trend with the high school football coaches, and in alarming numbers have elected to leave Florida and its enormous talent base to coach the game they love in other states. What is driving this exodus? Pressure to win exists everywhere, according to many coaches who have spoken with SB Live Sports. The demands on coaches both on and off the field. So they laid out several reasons in the article we touched on last week: resources, salary, commitment from administration, etc. All right, so now this is the bill that's being proposed. This is palmbeachpost.com. It says possible bill would mean big raise for Florida high school sports coaches. So it's not just football, it's all the different sports. It says, what if the minimum stipend for a high school football coach in Florida was $22,500 a year? So the stipend, they get their teaching salary, and then there's the additional pay for being a head coach. The Florida Coaches Coalition is working with State Rep Adam Anderson, Republican from Palm Harbor, Florida, on a bill that could see high school coaches paid $15 per hour for a minimum number of hours. Football coaches would be required to work a minimum of 1,500 hours a year, which would mean a $22,500 stipend. Baseball, basketball, soccer, football, and volleyball head coaches would be required to work 1,000 hours a year for a $15,000 stipend. Head coaches in other sports, as well as football assistant coaches, would be required to work a minimum of 750 hours, which would be an $11,250 stipend. So this is what's being proposed in the bill. For head football coaches in most counties, it would mean more than quadrupling their current stipend, and it would make Florida more competitive in pay with states such as Texas, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. What we're asking is that coaching supplements be attached to mandatory hours paid for hours working, as opposed to school districts guessing how many hours they're working, said Dr. Andrew Ramjet, the executive director of the Florida Coaches Coalition. That's just paying these coaches minimum wage. Coaches have been unfairly treated and overlooked for the job they put in. I like to call coaching the #1 dropout prevention program. The work coaches do is overlooked and underappreciated by school districts and teacher unions. And it is kind of true. They view it as extracurricular, but they're making the great point there that by having strong extracurriculars, it prevents students from dropping out, keeps them engaged, and has many benefits. Akula County is the only county that lists hours for each supplemented position. For football, it listed 224 hours for the 2022-23 school year. It's not immediately clear whether that number was minimum hours expected to work during the season, but most successful coaches work approximately 40 hours a week during the regular season. Ramjet used Mainland's current coaching opening as an example. That's Travis Rowland, who won a state title after just being there for, I think, 2 years, and then departed for Camden County, which is a great opportunity, taking that vacancy. And it really isn't that far. Obviously, Camden County is South Georgia. Saying a prospective coach can't walk into an interview saying they're going to work approximately 250 hours a year, won't have an off-season conditioning program, or coach spring football. They're not getting the job. They're going to get laughed out of the room. Florida State head football coach Mike Norvell, the USF director of internal scouting James Thompson, Venice High School football coach John Peacock and Ramjet all met with members of the state legislature in January. We wanted to educate House members and Senate members on why it's so important to raise supplements for coaches. No one outside of former Florida State star defensive tackle and current Senator Corey Simon knew what was going on. They were blown away because they didn't know it was so bad. They were shocked. So they're saying Corey Simon, a former football player, was the only one that was aware of the issue. That is funny. Ramjet is hoping to have a bill before the legislature in January 2025. He said he'd like to link coaches' compensation to whatever the Florida High School Athletic Association decides on name, image, and likeness. The FHSAA's board of directors had its first discussion on NIL a month ago on February 26th. I expect there to be a lot of pushback, he said. We already have teachers saying this can't happen unless teachers get paid first, and that is the entire issue. You're going to have, and listen, education is a very valuable thing, but if you are a teacher, let's say you teach AP math or a really tough class and it's preparing kids for their careers, when you see a football coach making over $100,000, you're going to say, what's going on? Why are you valuing football more? This is using it as a competitive model, comparing it to Georgia, saying it's disadvantaging coaches within their state, and it's also making the argument for hours, saying it's unreasonable to think any major head coach isn't going to work this amount of hours because you do spring practice, you do all these workouts. And so they're just making, I guess, a minimum wage argument, but you are going to get that pushback from the teachers' unions and teachers if they see the coaches getting paid a lot more. So it's a lot of different interest at play. I expect there to be a lot of pushback. We already have teachers saying this can't happen unless teachers get paid first. We expect a whole lot of pushback, but it's the right thing to do for the impact they have for these communities. We want to make sure coaches are paid in similar fashion to coaches in Texas and Georgia. They should be compensated the same or close as possible. I am fairly confident that something is going to get done because there's way too much momentum right now behind this issue. So a real conversation is happening, and it is because a lot of these great coaches in Florida have now come to Georgia, and a lot of coaches are encouraged to do that for their career because it's a great opportunity for them. But now Florida is starting to say, we've got to do something to level the playing field. So I thought that was incredibly interesting, and you can obviously look it up yourself if you just type in Florida coaches leaving for Georgia. So great stuff right there. All right, let's get into let's see real quick. Let's go into the baseball news from last night and I guess Monday as well. So we've mentioned in 7A you got Lowndes, the defending state champs. They lost to Houston County. They ended up splitting that series, but they've been on fire as of late. But this has been a rough week for them. They played Jeff Davis, a team they beat previously this season, once again, and they lost 4-3. That happened over the weekend. And then last night, they lost to Trinity Christian. So they've lost 2 straight. Okay, let's look at Parkview, the number 1 ranked team in 7A. They just fell to Newton on Monday. I think that was a 4-2 or 4-3 game. That was the first time Newton's ever beaten Parkview. As a rare loss. So you have the 2 top ranked teams in 7A both losing games that they were obviously expected to win. I pulled this up from last year. Newton was mercy ruled every single game against Parkview. They lost 16-3, 20-0. Keep in mind it's a 10-run mercy rule. But once you're stuck in the inning, you got to get the third out. So 20-0 and 16-1. The season before that, Newton lost 11-0, 14-0, and 12-2. And then the season before that, 12-0, 13-3, 13-1. Newton had never even played a complete game against Parkview. They got mercy ruled every single time, and now they scored a big victory over them. So that is a huge result, and it's already one of the most competitive regions in the state, and obviously 7A as well. So that's Region 4. Currently, you have Parkview. They're 15-3 overall, and now 6-1 because of that loss to Newton, Parkview's first region loss. Brookwood is at 16-4 overall, and they are at 6-1 in the region. Both those teams swept Grayson, which we'll get into in a bit. You got Archer currently at third place at 5-2 in the region, and they are 11-7 overall. And then Newton is now in fourth with a 7-12 overall record, 2-5 in the region. You got Grayson at 8-7, and then 2-5 in the region. So 5 teams that are all very much in it, and Grayson is going to close out its season with Archer and Newton, and those are going to be must-win games. And the reason why that Newton win over Parkview was so big is because you got to assume Grayson already got swept by Parkview. Archer, I believe they got swept by Parkview, but Newton was able to steal that one game. And so even if they say they lose the series to Archer and then win the series against Grayson or vice versa, that extra game could be the difference in them earning a playoff spot. And the reason I said that they've never beaten Parkview is prior to 3 seasons ago, they were not in the same region. Newton was typically in the Rockdale County, Alcovey regions. They have had a long history with Grayson, but similar. I went back 10 years, and Newton has not had a win over Grayson. Their last winning season and playoff appearance was 2015. They finished 14-3, and they ended up squaring off with Lee County in the first round, and they did split that series. But they ended up falling in the 3 games, 2-1. They won in extra innings against Lee County. So 2015, that was their last winning season and last playoff win. So we'll see what that Parkview win's going to do for them, but it was a big result. It's worth pointing out, and it was a huge moment for their season to get that win ahead of these final showdowns. So there's some other very interesting region battles going on right now. Let's look at, this will be Walton's region, and Kennesaw Mountain has done itself a huge favor this week with its clutch victories. One sec. But yeah, and another reason that Newton wins huge, Brookwood now has a chance to, if they can get past Parkview, win the region. All right, so Kennesaw Mountain is 9-9 overall, but they've won 4 straight games, and now they're in a dead tie with Walton for the region lead. This is in Region 5, and they had a big win Monday night over Cherokee. That was on the road. They won that one 1-0. They will play Cherokee again tonight and then close out that 3-game series on Friday. And if they can just come out of that series 2-1, they're in great shape. They got Osborne and then North Cobb left on the schedule. They ended up falling to Walton in the 3-game series 2-1, so Walton does have the tiebreaker over them, but if they can close out this series against Cherokee and then hold off North Cobb, they'll be in great shape. But the same is also true if they end up falling to Cherokee. They're in a lot of trouble. Cherokee is 1 game behind them right now, 4-3, and North Cobb is also at 4-3, so they still have to play 2 against Cherokee and then 3 against North Cobb. So that is very significant, but the win last night over Cherokee was huge to move them to number 2 in the region standings. And then some other big results from last night. Milton, a 9-4 win over West Forsyth. I'll break down that region in a sec, but Milton has had a very interesting season. And the difference between that region, they don't play 3-game series, and this is why it's going to be a very exciting final 2 weeks. They play 2 against the opponents. They play basically a doubleheader, and then they play that game 3 all to close out the season. So you basically, like that last week, you have all these teams, and I couldn't find another region that is formatted that way, but I think it prepares them with like a whole different strategy. If you know you're Kennesaw Mountain, you got to play Walton 3 games in a row in the regular season, and you have 2 aces, you're going to use them both times, or you aren't going to have one available. But the way this works, you're going to play the doubleheader, and then you don't play them again for another month. So you can use your top guy in 2 of the 3 games, which no other region does it like that. And I think it's actually more beneficial to prepare for the playoffs. So we'll look at that right now. So West Forsyth, they end up falling to Milton last night. And if you look at their current season, they are ranked the highest out of that region. They're 11-6 overall, but they are 4-4 in the region. They have played all 4 of the region opponents, but they've split every series. They went 1-1 against Forsyth Central. They went 1-1 against Denmark. They went 1-1 against South Forsyth, and then 1-1 against Milton. Actually, sorry, they have 1 more of those. So they might go 1-1 against all of them, but they have Lambert this week. Then they will play the 3rd game against all those opponents right in a row. Forsyth Central, they are at 5-3. South Forsyth is at 5-3. Lambert's at 4-4. West Forsyth's at 4-4, and then Milton and Denmark are at 3-5. So really, you have all 6 of those teams are still in the running for the playoffs, top to bottom. I think that's the most intriguing playoff race I've seen, and I think it's a result of them going 2 and then 1 instead of the 3-game series. So big matchups to watch. But the West Forsyth Lambert one. Can West Forsyth finally win a doubleheader, or will they split against every opponent? That will be the key. All right, so let's look real quick at some other results from last night. All right, so in lacrosse, and we'll take a quick break after this, but Lambert had the big win over Buford. They obviously were bitter last year after falling to the rival West Forsyth in the state finals. Lambert is the premier boys program. They are renowned for their defense. Very few teams ever scored double-digit goals on them. They've had Buford's number pretty much every year, but definitely these last 2 years. But then they finally squared off against West Forsyth again last night, a big 11-5 victory. So Lambert couldn't be hotter right now on the boys lacrosse scene. But let's take one more quick break, and then we'll close out the show on the other side.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
All right, welcome back. So let's go over a couple more scores because we've got the baseball rankings coming out tomorrow, and it's going to be very interesting with some of these results last night. And I was surprised they were even able to play. It rained all day, so credit for them for sticking it out. But the Trinity Christian win over Lowndes, 2-1. Okay, and that was an out-of-state Trinity Christian. So for a second I thought it was Class 4A, the Lions, but no, that was an out-of-state loss. But 2 losses in a row for Lowndes. Nonetheless, we'll see if a team like Buford or Brookwood's able to jump them, but I'm still probably going to put them in the top 2. You got Ware County beating Coffee. That's a big region victory. Coffee's currently ranked number 3 in Class 5A. Ware County has been hovering around the number 10 spots. This is a big win for them to open that series. South Effingham had a huge win last night over Brunswick, 1-0. It's a very competitive region with Glen Academy playing well. So that's going to shake things up. And then Calvary Day, really like what they've been doing in Class 3A. And they looked great last night against Savannah Christian with an 8-0 victory. Then let's see, Troop, they're in that region with LaGrange and Stars Mill, 2 of the top ranked teams in Class 4A. They had a big win over Riverdale last night, 15-0. So their only shortfalls this season have been to those top teams, but that is a region that has the ability to sweep in the first round. Now let's look at some girls across real quick. So last night, Westminster beat rival Lovett 15-8. East Forsyth had a big win over Kingsridge Christian 17-4. They continue to just be so impressive as an upstart program. Riverwood beat Holy Innocents 14-8. That's a big win right there. And then Cherokee 19-14 win over Kell. And then Fellowship Christian on the girls' side, a big win over Pace Academy. They remain a serious contender as well. Then you had the Lambert girls, big win over Buford, 16-4, all last night. And then let's look real quick at today's games for baseball. A key one, Grayson and South Gwinnett. Grayson should handle business, but they've got to win this series to keep their playoff hopes alive. Norcross is going to play Discovery, and they are looking to bounce back from a 6-1 loss to Peachtree Ridge last night. You got Walton and Wheeler, Westlake and Carrollton, big series between Cherokee and Kennesaw Mountain, North Cobb and Osborne, and then Brookwood and Archer. That will be massive. Those are the number. Well, I guess Brookwood's tied with Parkview for number 1. Archer sitting comfortably at number 3 with a 2-game lead, but they can change that with the series win over Brookwood. And then game 2 between Newton and Parkview is going to be tonight. You also have a crucial game for Denmark and Milton. Both those teams need to win to rise to number 4 in the standings. You got Lambert and West Forsyth in another battle. That series is just getting started. As we mentioned, West Forsyth has split against its 4 previous region foes. We'll see if they can get that done. And then Forsyth Central and South Forsyth, it is all going through that region in the coming weeks. And then with soccer today, you're going to have about 20 matchups on the girls' side. Should be a good one. You got Lowndes against Thomasville, good non-region matchup. And then East Coweta Noonan, and then Forsyth Central Denmark on the girls' side. So not too many soccer games tonight. And then got the boys' soccer results from last night. One sec. There were supposed to be 120 games, but I know some were rained out. Whitewater, big win over Sandy Creek, 7-1. You had Statesboro beating Greenbrier 1-0. Jenkins over Ware County 5-1. North Gwinnett beating Tucker 2-1. And then Jefferson County over Swainsboro 1-0. So there's about 3 weeks of action left. Wayne County over Coffee, a non-region matchup, but that was a 3-2 win. So we got all the spring sports. Go to the scoreatl.com page, click the scoreboard. Seth is doing all the updates each night. We'll have more stories posted up there. We got the latest rankings for all the spring sports and more stories as well. Also, subscribe to our YouTube page. We got a lot of content up there from all our shows. But we'll be back tomorrow with Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins at 2 o'clock, and I'll be back on Friday. Hope everyone has a good day.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.